All right, you guys, we are live July 1st. It's somehow already July. I feel like it was just, man, it feels like we just hired you like a couple of weeks ago. When did you start?
Around September of last year.
Oh my God, you've almost been working for Pisces for an entire year.
Almost, yeah.
That's insane. I'm like dying, getting ready to send the kids back to school. One of mine starts middle school this year. One of yours started middle school last year, right?
And now my daughter's going into middle school.
Is the baby walking yet? Trying to walk?
No, trying. She's standing up. She's very strong. I'm surprised she's not walking.
They keep growing. Like, I love my kids so much, and I'm so excited that they're getting more independent. But at the same time, like, I remember when the little one, like, would just, like, be tiny and couldn't move, and now he's like, no, mommy. I'm like, it's really
Fast.
cute. It's very fast, yeah. Well, I think today we have a plan. Shelby put this outline together. 5 easy aquarium plants with endless variety. So when I suggested the topic to Shelby, she was like, I can't do this because there's so many different versions. And I think you came up with a theme to deal with that, right? What was your theme?
Yeah, so today is the top 5, but it's like categories. So they're easy plants that have different varieties to them that are still in the same class, but they're real easy. So it narrows it down to like a group of 5 plants that generally are easy for beginners. I chose this list because it's ones I've dealt with personally. When you think of moss, you only think of like one moss, not the 30 different varieties that you could do. So it's like, you might not like this one or you might not like that, but you might like this one, and it's super easy. So we're in broad terms, there are a ton of plants that are easy. You can go into many more that are really easy, but these ones are truly easy for the hobby.
Yeah, I think when we first plants can be really overwhelming. So my undergrad, I did a lot of botany stuff. I actually have publications on plant tissue culture, and I taught a tissue culture lab at Georgia Tech whenever I was there. So my background on plants is pretty darn strong. When I was working on my PhD, I actually took several dendrology classes, which is taxonomy for trees, where we went out into, and it was specifically water type trees, where we went out into swamps and learned how to classify trees and how to identify the trees and based on bark and leaves and whatnot. There's a million different varieties of every type of plant. So like when you say oak tree, like everybody probably thinks of a different type of oak. When you say maple tree, everybody's probably thinking of a different type of maple tree. And I think the same thing happens with some of these plants. Like, and I forget about it sometimes because it's been so long since I was in that world. And so like when I first started looking at the outline, I was like, oh, mosses. I know what mosses are. And then I started looking at the names. I was like, oh, I don't know what any of those are. And it's like when I hear the word moss, an image forms in my head. But someone who's really into mosses, like anybody who's doing a planted aquarium should have a variety of mosses that fill their head, right? It's like you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's kind of the premise of how you categorize some of these things today is like, you don't know what you don't know. You might want a moss, but what type of moss? So what's our first topic?
So we can bring up the mosses first because I feel like those are the most general for all plants. So like that is the number one for us. We always constantly preach moss because they can go in any tank. They take a variety of water parameters and you can literally just throw it in the tank and it grows. If not just throwing it in the tank, You can attach it to driftwood, to rock, crevices. There's just so much variety you can do with moss. It's really cool. There's some floating moss, which is like a crystal wort. There's moss that you can take like little tiny bits of it, grind it up, and use like a yogurt base, and then spread that against rocks, and it'll grow too, like immersed, and it's really cool. There's just so many different varieties of moss too. You got Java moss, Christmas moss, flame, peacock, pucker moss. There are way too many mosses, honestly. When people come to our booth for moss, they usually get a little overwhelmed by the amount that we have at our table. And we don't even have all the mosses. There is several different types that we don't even carry, and we have 500 tanks, you know, so. But Java moss is usually the most popular. It's the most readily available. And then Christmas moss is one of my favorites.
All right, so today we decided we were going to do this, like me Googling the images instead of trying to pull them up to begin with, because there's so many. What's the first thing you want me to pull up?
Java moss is good.
Okay. So I'm learning right along with everybody today. So is this Java moss or is this Java? This is Java fern, right?
Yeah, that's Java fern.
All right, so Java moss.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Yeah,
what do we?
Java moss, super easy to grow. It's really pretty. It does grow fast, so you do have to trim it sometimes in particular setups.
All right, they're saying they can't hear Shelby at all. Can y'all still not hear Shelby?
Oh. Hello? Gotta be something wrong.
Yeah, it's showing that it's moving on my
it up.
end. Can try turning the volume up on you a little bit. Talk again.
Hello?
Can y'all hear her? You can hear her, but just not as loud and clear as yours. All right, keep talking. I'm turning your volume up more.
Hello? Yeah, Java moss is one of my favorites. Hopefully we can fix this soon. Shelby is quiet. That's probably what, just lower comparison to Brandy, which is weird.
Well, you sound quiet coming out of
Hello?
mine too.
If you
so
thump the mic, we did not hear that. No,
Alright, I thumped my
just
mic.
talking.
you thump
Mine's
your mic.
showing that it's coming up.
Hit
Very
your mic.
loud.
Can you hit your mic again, Shelby? Yeah, I'm not hearing that either.
Let's see.
You sounded
says it's
quiet
on
to
the
me,
Shure
which
mic.
is why I messaged Camille earlier and asked if if she could hear us okay.
Yeah, it's still showing that it's coming up through my Shure mic. This one here.
I think I'm just talking quieter or louder. All right, she sent
Better,
me a
but
video of
still
it.
low.
All right, I'm cutting down my volume and cutting up Shelby's, so let's see if that helps. All right, say something, Shelby.
Hello? Hello?
All right, hopefully that helps you guys. She's quiet on my end too, but I think that that's just how it's coming through. I don't know if you can turn up your mic volume.
No, it's all the way up. It's going into the red.
Much better now. Okay. So I just
Okay.
had to cut me down in comparison to you. I guess people probably, if they were cutting it up for you, they were having to cut it down for me talking. So
Yeah.
I hopefully it's fixed. Okay. Now we can't hear you at all. Who can't
No, we
you hear?
can't. Much better. So I don't know what's going on. Oh, now we can't hear you, maybe.
Can you hear me? I know, that's why I said which
I
one
can
can you
hear
not
you.
hear?
Perfectly fine, so.
I think it's more muffled, if anything. I wonder if my mic is the one catching your audio again.
Oh, like last time.
Yeah. But when you're talking, the audio's going up. Now I can hear you both.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm like,
Sorry.
okay. I'm like, I don't know what settings to mess with. When we first started doing this, I didn't know how to change it. I've done some research and figured out how to do some of this stuff. But if none of that was working, I didn't know how to fix it.
Yeah. It's a learning process for sure.
Yes. All right. So Java moss. Sorry. Back to our Java moss.
Yep.
What do we want to say about this?
Super easy. You can just throw it right into a tank. You don't need to attach it. A lot of the plants we will talk about today are like this, where you don't need substrate technically to have these plants. And one of those is moss. They usually do better if you just throw them in a tank, you put them on wood. You can attach it by gluing. You can attach it by string. Another one you can look up real quick is Christmas moss.
Christmas.
This is one of our personal favorites besides weeping. It looks similar. That's the thing I want to bring up about mosses. They'll look pretty close together, but they'll have just different ways the fronds grow on the moss themselves. So that's what starts classifying the different mosses. So you can go from Java to Christmas. Flame starts growing up, and then you'll have like peacock. It just grows a little bit more sporadic, but more like fronds. But right, then so you get
I can go back and forth now. Yeah. So this and this.
Yeah.
Christmas
See,
moss,
it's just
Java moss.
Java's a little bit more stringy than Christmas. Christmas looks more like a Christmas tree
I like
frond.
Christmas moss. That's really pretty.
And it starts to stack on each other. Some that I kind of left out of this would be one you can look up is Subwassertang.
You're going to have to tell me how to spell that one.
Subwassertang. Subwassertang. I think close enough. It'll come up. And it is completely different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That looks more like an algae.
Yes. So it is actually, there's a name for it. I'm drawing a blank. Grant usually tells me. It's not technically a moss. It's, oh my goodness. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But Subwassertang is super easy to grow in tanks as well. Sometimes you'll have them like grow and overtake a tank. Subwassertang is one of my favorite because it'll grow into like a ball, just like that right there. And that's why we just usually just throw it right into the tank. And it's one of my favorite. It's almost translucent. Not a crystal wort, liverwort, I think is maybe the word I'm looking for. Liverwort. I think that's what it is.
Up for you. It is not a moss, but rather prothallium or a gametophyte of a fern. Gametophyte. So that means it's like the reproductive portion of a fern.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, ferns have like multiple life cycles. So like they grow up and turn into like this something, and then they grow up and turn into a fern.
Mm-hmm. And then Mike asked, do mosses have problems at higher temperatures? So we do have a couple tanks that have our ponds outside actually have moss in them. I grow Christmas moss, peacock moss, and different ones outside without an issue. I'm not sure on Subwassertang if it would be okay in hotter tanks. I've had them in tanks that have heaters, and it did just fine. So I really haven't had any issues with temperature wise for mosses. I do typically grow most of them inside in a tank, which is usually room temperature, but outside it's in the hundreds and they're growing just fine.
So probably okay.
Oh yeah.
All right, what's our next one?
So next we're let's move on to crypts. Those are definitely one of my favorites. I have an entire tank of just crypts. So the more common is the crypt wendenti or wintentii. It's hard to pronounce some of these Latin words for some of these plants.
W-I, what is it?
It's Wendtii. So these come in many forms too. So Crypt Wendentii can come in green, reds, browns. There's tropical Wendentii as well, Tropica, which is like their own specific one.
So is it this taller one right here that's in this picture?
Yeah. So that's a brown. I know
it's really funny when I hear everybody say crypts, I think of like their crypt keeper.
Yeah. Every time. Me too. We actually have a friend who's on YouTube named Crypt Keeper, and that's what I think of all the time too. Not that he keeps crypts and grows them. I think of Crypt Keeper.
What's another type of crypt you want me to pull up?
So you could do Crypt lutea as well. Lutea. This one's a really so this one's more like elongated. With little leaves at the end. It's really dainty to me. I really enjoy this one. It doesn't get as big as some of the brown crypts can get, and the green crypts, those can grow really large in your tank. It does take some time, but all of these crypts can just be planted in sand. You don't need no special aqua soil. If it's a planted fish tank, it's good for just it's low nutrients. You don't need much. I have one in just a fish tank. The fish provide most of the nutrients for it. It doesn't overgrow the tank. I haven't really trimmed it. I just let them go crazy.
Ooh, what kind is this one?
That one is it's hard to see on my end. So that might be a specific Java fern. That's a Java fern.
Ah.
Yeah, which we'll get to those later. Yeah. I love Java ferns. They're super easy to grow too. I always forget Crypt spiralis is actually another one. I don't have it on our list that we have, but spiralis is one of my favorite, and a lot of people tend to lean towards this one because they like to fill out their tank. So spiralis will grow and cover like the whole cover the whole surface. That might be it's hard to tell if that's jungle valor Crypt spiralis from the picture, but it's the same concept. It grows up and it goes on the surface, so it's really pretty for that background plant. So you could do an entire tank if you wanted to for aquascaping, especially of crypts. From like Crypt parva is like a carpeting kind of plant, and it stays small. Then you can do the Crypt lutea, which is just slightly a little bit bigger and like dainty, to the Crypt wendentii, which get a little bit larger, than the Crypt spiralis is in the back, which gets even taller.
Crypt tank. That sounds really. It's like a species specific tank.
Yes, I love crypts so much.
Genus specific tank, huh? So do they have this like red and green color, or are these two different types of plants that are mixed in here?
So that might be two different plants. There are Crypt spiralis can have like there's red Crypt spiralis, just like there's red jungle val. There's different variations of the Crypt spiralis as well. But that's diving in deeper, but all of them are easy. It's just if you want to keep coloration to some of those plants, you would need like highlight and CO2 for those, but they're still going to grow. They're just going to be green instead of the coloration to them.
God, that's so pretty.
There's some like brown, like the brown crypts will keep their color. That's just them. Like there's the red crypt that I talk about is actually just like the stems are red. It doesn't actually, like the leaves usually aren't red unless you put them in like a high CO2 tank. But Vibes asks, favorite red crypt. I love the pink flamingo, but I think my favorite crypt of all time, I like the Tropica, but there's a crypt that we have in our 55-gallon tank. I can't remember the name of it, but and it said, is jungle val and crypts related? No, they're two different species. Jungle val is more translucent and a different feeling altogether. Jungle val's super easy. Both of them are great beginner plants for sure. They grow typically the same where they shoot out runners. But jungle val, if you feel it, it's more like a seaweed than it is like a crypt. Crypts are more,
Crypts seem more leafy,
hard.
Right? Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I was trying to.
Just I know nothing,
jungle,
so tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
But like just from these pictures I'm seeing, like this seems more like maybe a dicot where it's got like a split down the middle with veins running through the center, and the val in this picture I'm assuming looks more like a monocot where it's just like lines going up.
Mm-hmm. Rose maiden. That's the crypt. Okay. Yeah, we have a rose maiden crypt. It's so pretty.
Thank you guys. We love you guys too. Ooh, that is pretty. This?
Give me a second. It takes it's loading. Thank you so much, Johnny. Yeah, it looks just like that. It's so pretty. Ours is kind of laying flatter like that second picture. But it is, yeah. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, that is gorgeous.
It's got so much character, and every time I see it in the tank,
this is a crypt also?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm so excited to keep interrupting you.
That one, it needs a little bit more nutrients for it, for sure, to keep that cool coloration. Like I said, crypts will grow in just about anything, but to keep colors in certain things, it needs a little bit more nutrients. So that one's my favorite for sure, though. So hopefully.
Oh yeah, happy birthday, Shelby.
Thank you.
Birthday week.
Yeah. I definitely got spoiled this whole month. So I had a whole month of birthdays.
I can't wait to celebrate you in a couple of weeks too.
Yeah.
Down in Orlando. We'll have to go out for a birthday dinner.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Maybe that's when we should go to Andretti.
That would be lovely. That'd be so much fun. So next, crypts are always going to be easy. The next one is one you've already picked out before, which is the Java ferns. So these are rhizome plants. I love Java ferns.
So what does rhizome mean?
So it's their root structure, and the rhizomes, these don't get planted. You never bury these. I don't know if you'll be able to see the rhizomes. They usually don't post them online. But yeah, looking it up might help. Maybe that first
I'll just look
picture.
up rhizome.
Yeah. Oh, you can kind of see in that.
So this is a very basic image, and I'm sure that the rhizomes are quite a bit less pronounced than this. But this is a when you think of rhizome, you kind of think of that. Like potatoes are rhizomes.
Yeah. So you don't want to bury that. That usually suffocates them and kills them out. So a lot of people will kill their bulbitis and Java ferns this way. And it's a very regularly plant that you'd see at Petco, anywhere. There you go. That's a perfect picture of the rhizomes. You don't want to suffocate those. You can.
So which part is the rhizome?
Them,
is it this green part or the brown
part?
Brown.
The brown. Okay. Yeah. So, and you still want some of that green that's mixed with that brown out of the substrate. You can put it down there, but it just doesn't do well. So usually what you want to do is attach this or shove it in a crevice between a rock or a piece of wood. My favorite is to grow it on wood because it'll start creeping up, and then before long you'll have the whole piece of wood will be Java fern. And I actually have. I'm actually
I
sitting near.
totally see
I
why
don't know if it's
people
gonna
would think
be.
this is a root, though. This does
Yes.
not stand
Yeah.
out to me as a classic rhizome. So this is like
Yeah.
you having to know about the plants.
Mm-hmm. So, but it's super easy. It's pretty rare that people kill it because it's so easy. Because when it does die, if you can see in this picture, actually shows it like at the leaf at the end of it, it starts a new runner off of like the dead dying plant. So you can usually just rip that off and throw it in the tank. You don't have to do anything with it, and it will start growing more and more of them. It is truly one of the coolest, neatest looking plants because a lot of people are grown, when you walk around nature, ferns are usually the things you see everywhere that people love. And like they'll take over a forest and you're just like, wow, that's so pretty. And it's just because like the ferns are everywhere. So you got different varieties of this, like Windalove. That one's got so much more character to it at the end of it. So it'll still have like the same leaf structure as a Java fern, but at the very end, it kind of like branches out. um, this reminds me so much of
Oh, I've seen
a moose
this at
ball.
shows before.
I usually have it. um, and
I
so this
thought that it was
reminds
like
me.
where fish were picking at it and had ripped the leaves. That it grows
hmm
that way?
yeah.
That's
Oh yeah.
crazy.
It's really cool. There's so many varieties of this. I even just figured out a newer variety from someone who posted about it, that they have a long leaf like Winda Love that grows long and then at the end does that. And I'm like, I didn't know there was, because usually it's shorter and it's got that little character. It's crazy that it can grow, different varieties grow longer than this. Usually it stays real short, compact. So I love these for like little tiny 10-gallon tanks. I mean, it'll just sit there and grow in your tank, and really
So all
easy, very minimal.
this brown stuff down here is still rhizomes, right?
Yes, so that one's generally like a mat is how you'll get a lot of the Java ferns, is how they sell them. So they'll take all the rhizomes and they take a thread through it and then put it on a cocoa fiber mat so that it just sinks in your tank, and then you can just grow it from there. Um, a lot of people will take that. I take it apart sometimes and I just shove it in like different parts of the aquascape, or you can just leave it on the mat and then shove the whole cocoa fiber mat into the scape. um Hopefully someone doesn't like over thread it. It can like suffocate it if they do too much threading, but
So
it's
in the wild,
one of the
do
coolest.
these rhizomes ever eventually bury themselves at all, or do they still like do they grip to the surface that they're growing on?
They grip to a lot of different things like woods and rocks and things like that. So
Plants are so weird.
hmm
This is why I
yeah.
love plants. This is why I've spent so much of my life looking at plants. Like,
hmm That's what, um it kind of throws me for a loop because the next one is like, so Buce is really popular. It's a newer thing that came in the hobby not too long
I have
ago.
some Buce in my
Um,
tank. I was
yeah,
very
and
proud
it
of myself when I saw it because I'm like, ooh, I've heard them talk about this.
yes, Buce is like one of the coolest things. So this is the one that
I think
I
this is the
find
kind
the
I
most
have.
interesting. Yeah, that one's pretty. Um, I find it most interesting because of the coloration and the fact that it flowers underwater. There are a lot of plants that do, but Boost to me is the easiest one to get to flower underwater.
I didn't know mine could flower. I don't know if it's
hmm
ever flowered or if I just wasn't noticing it.
Sometimes, yeah, it could be that you don't notice it, and sometimes the inhabitants could eat it because it's very soft flower. It's a little bell, white bell that usually comes up. It's very beautiful. I've gotten multiple flowers from all different booths. A lot of them are still yet to be actually identified and classified the right way.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, they're still pretty new, and then they farmed them too much. There you go. Aren't they pretty?
Oh my goodness.
It opens up a little bit more than that too, so it kind of looks like a little tulip when it's like fully open. That's kind of like a bud. A lot of people don't have pictures of it. I I don't have one handy. I wish I did, but I have it in like a cover photo. Used it like 100 times, and there's so many
I have a
different
new
ones.
mission now. I will get my Buce flowering. I will get a
Yeah.
picture of it. Oh, is this kind of opened?
I think that's an Anubias
Oh, is that
blooming.
Nubius?
Yeah, they're very similar. So the Anubias have like a bigger one, and then it's like a little like a calla lily. That's almost what they look
Ah.
like underwater. Um, but Buce are very fascinating because they typically do grow outside of the water, like for part of their life, and that's the same with a lot of aquarium plants. The first time I ever heard that was so dumbfounded to me that aquarium plants actually grow on land and like then it gets submerged and it makes it an aquarium plant. So there's a period of their life where it is not underwater at all. And the same actually with carnivorous plants. This is actually in one of my talks. So if you're going to the Keystone Clash, sorry, I spoil it a little bit. But like one of my favorite things
You're getting
is
a preview. That's
yeah,
what it is.
is our carnivorous plants here that, I mean, we have an entire field that gets filled with them. And during like the beginning of the year, they're everywhere. And then that floods and then they come back the next year. Like it's crazy to me how many of them are. And it's like, I don't really see them underwater. So you don't know. But boosts are super easy. I mean, just put it in the tank. That's all you got to do. And it, it's very slow grower. And I usually just put it in little rocks and between the wood. Another one that you do not plant because it does grow from its like roots. I wish I had it behind me. I think I do, but it's in a tank that you can't really see. It's
Johnny,
like that
you
one
do
right
have to
there.
get a Buce plant.
Yeah. Buce are like the coolest thing. They do come with yeah, they're being over poached in the wild.
Where are they
Great.
found natively?
Give me a second.
Bucephalandra?
Bucephalandra. Yeah. Bucephalandra is what it's usually called. I can't remember where it's actually from.
Well, we have
not
Google
Thailand.
Here. Where is Bucephalandra harvested? Well, they grow very slow too, right? Or am I just bad at growing it?
Yeah, no, they grow slow.
Borneo. Where's
Borneo? There we go.
Is that South America?
I believe so.
Oh, Indo.
Yeah, Borneo. Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Oh. I'm terrible with the map. Don't ask me things. But
I know just enough to be like, oh, I've heard of that place before, but my brain doesn't tell me where it's located. Southeast Asia. Huh.
Yeah. Even if you grow it above water like it does, it is still a slow grower. So.
Man, look at the speckles on that.
And we did find if you reduce the lighting for some of it, it can change the coloration of the crypt or the Buce, sorry. And we've had like more purples and pinks show up. But it's usually not good for the plant, but that's how some of them, like they market it as like a really pink Buce, and it's usually because it's been deprived of light.
That's like if you put a plant in a cabinet, you're going to get some really interesting white color because it stops photosynthesizing.
Yeah.
Which is not good.
No. It makes it really pretty, but...
So these are the ends, and you don't want to plant these.
No, that would suffocate them just like if you were to plant any rhizome. It's the same concept. Really easy to grow in between rocks. It's just... To me, this is just like Anubias, which is another good beginner plant. I didn't add that to the list.
Next? Oh, you didn't put that on the list? I have Anubias too.
Yeah, they're very, very similar, very simple. A Buce is just prettier to me because it gets to flower. Anubias will flower in certain conditions, but to me, they usually they need CO2 to flower or they're distressed. with Anubias. But you've got like 20 different Anubias. This should have been on the list for sure.
So these are more of like a heart-shaped leaf.
So you got, I believe that's just a
You can
nana.
definitely see the split, the center, and the veins coming out the center here. Yep. I know that that's one thing about plants that people don't realize. Like whenever I used to talk to people about gardening, and they'd be like, "Oh, my plants never flower," and it's typically because they're in too happy of an environment. If you want plants to flower, you've got to stress them out a little bit.
Yeah.
Though it sounds like for this plant to get it to flower, it's might be stressed out too much. So, not necessarily a good thing if you see these flowering.
Yeah, in a tank. When you grow them immersed, they do flower regularly. Yeah. So that's the thing with the flowers. Usually it's because they're out of water. So like a Madagascar lace plant, one of my favorites as well, but very hard to find. It's got one of the coolest blooms. So it will grow up a huge shoot and it'll go out of the tank and you'll have a really cool bloom. Almost looks like a lavender plant.
Again, this is a plant that I've seen that I thought fish were eating, and that's why it looked that way. That's crazy. Like, it just grows like this.
There's a lace plant, so that's a Madagascar lace plant. There's a Madagascar plant that is like solid. It doesn't have that pattern to it, but that's still one of my favorite. We have that in like, if I can put that in every tank, I'm putting it in.
Where would I find these plants?
These are like at Petco, Pet Supermarket, online. Yeah. I have bought them. They don't come very often, so you have to get them when they do get them. And
is there like big nurseries retailers from them? Like, does Garden of Eden sell them?
No, I've seen them on like Dustin's fish tanks, I believe, once in a while. They're very slow growers too. They're really cool. You can get like a bunch of them. They just take a little bit longer to grow than most plants. But if you can get it to bloom, it's crazy how many like little ones you can get. But it doesn't send out like runners like you would find in other plants. So it is cool to have if you don't want a bunch of plants in your tank and you just kind of want like a main centerpiece. This is one of my go-to. If I was to put one plant in the tank, it would be the Madagascar lace plant, because it's super easy to grow still.
It's gorgeous, especially now that I know that it's healthy. I'm like, man, those fish have really like done a number on that plant. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, we never have them available is what Grant said. They're all mine. That's it's the same. It's been my first favorite plant that I ever had in the tank was one of these. I got it at a local pet store. It really depends if the nursery has them in and if you can get them. They are expensive. They're about $15-$20, where like you can get a Crypt for like $10, you know, maybe $5
Take my money.
From someone, you know, but yeah. It's worth the money 100%.
So
we have
we're running a little over time, but I'm going down to my family's house next weekend, and I think I'm going to live stream from my sister. She just started into the hobby a little less than a year ago, and they have 3 tanks now, and they're trying to do planted. I might order some. I know she never watches this live stream, so I can surprise her. I might order some of the stuff from this live stream if you can help me figure out where to get it from, Shelby, after the live stream, obviously, and like get it shipped to her house. I'd be like, surprise! And maybe next week we can talk about the plants and play with some of them.
Oh, yeah. I have just about everything, but I have the Madagascar lace plant, but not available. Like, that's ours.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And the last one on the list we can talk about real quick is Guppy Grass. This one is really cool because...
this too. I'm so excited. This one you can just throw right in there. I'm like... Maybe I don't have this. I have some type of grass in my tank. I don't have this, but I do have some type of grass.
Yeah. Guppy grass is super easy. I mean, you just throw it in the tank and it reproduces. You don't have to plant it. You can. This one can be put into sand or substrate. But I usually just throw it in like it's a floating plant. It grows really, really fast. It's really good if you're breeding guppies because it helps them weave in and out of it, so that they can stay safe. You could use it for
You
shrimp
mean so they don't
because
eat each
much
other?
surface. Right.
By safe, aka so they don't cannibalize their young.
Exactly. And it's low light. I mean, you could pretty much grow this almost in the dark. I would say that it would still grow. It doesn't grow fast, obviously, with low light, but it will still grow. Give it decent LED lighting. All of these that we listed today can just be grown with LED lighting. You don't need CO2 and you don't even really need substrate except for the crypts. The crypts do need like sand. That's bare minimum for them, and it's super easy because most people have sand. You could do it in peat gravel, which I know a lot of people start their tanks off with peat gravel because it's very cheap and cost efficient. So it could go in there, no problem. All of them can be grown with LEDs, like I said, and no CO2. So if you want to have success with the tank, obviously plants are the way to go, and these ones will be easy for you. Just remember, don't bury the rhizomes. That's a big no-no. If you see that your plant has a rhizome, from like the Java ferns to the Buce to the Anubis, if you're not sure, you can also, take a picture of it, post it to a page on Facebook, and make sure that it's not a rhizome plant or where to plant this.
We have
Because
a
if you do
Facebook group.
bury
It's
it,
called Aqua Aquarium Club, I believe. So you could
yeah,
always post on our Facebook group, and we will respond to you.
yep, super easy. Some of the things that could happen though is you could have it to grow too fast, honestly, even though these are easy and you think, oh, I can't grow things, you might have it grow too fast. Just remember, it's real easy to trim out some of these to, either bring it to your local aquarium club, Petco, things like that. If not, then, it can go to the grass. um, just make sure that you're trimming it and keeping it maintained. The slow growers you don't have to worry about so much, like the Buce and the Anubis doesn't grow too fast. It's like a real slow to moderate growing, and it usually doesn't overgrow in your tank, so it's really nice. And I have the same with my Crypts. I would just say the Guppy Grass could be an overgrower, and the moss sometimes can take over. So just be aware of that and make sure you're staying diligent with it. But it's not like so fast that it just happens in a blink of an eye.
I think that's some good advice, and I know I learned a lot. I thought this was very exciting. Hopefully, you guys did too. And we are way over our 30-minute mark today, so because I kept interrupting Shelby in excitement. Thanks for talking to us about all the plants, Shelby, and we will see you guys next week so that's the 8th at 1 o'clock again. Bye, you guys.